Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Berkshire Battalion Signal Corps podcast. Al Kessler here with you. I'm joined for the final time by Ross Jacobs and Bill Bird. We're going to talk about the final weekend of this season, the FHL awards that were doled out, a good cleanup for the Berkshire Battalion in those awards. And we'll reflect back on the season as a whole. Ross, let's start off with you. This is a bittersweet time, though, especially considering I will not be returning next year. I'm definitely going to miss North Adams. Definitely going to miss the Berkshire fans. It was an incredible experience.
Well, it was a pleasure having you. It was a pleasure having this roller coaster ride going on with everybody. I remember last September when they were actually. It goes back to even before then when they were talking about the NAPHL possibly bringing a team in here, and that fell through. And then shortly after that, we were hearing about the entrance of the FHL into town, and that was, of course, due to the tireless work of Darren and the ownership groups involved. And that just got me real excited for hockey. I've been playing hockey when I was young. I had been playing rec league when I moved here because of the facility here in North Adams. And then, just getting involved was probably the best decision that I've made in a good long time. And, it started off, there was a lot of excitement. The team was doing okay. Then there was that road trip in December that knocked them down a few games, and I guess they never recovered from that in the standings, but they certainly played a lot of great hockey. And that's really the best you can hope for a team that I think had the potential to go the way of maybe the Pennsylvania team that they played to open the season. Bill, what do you think? How did you get involved in this to start with, and how did it work out for you? Do you think?
Well, Darren and I have been close for a long time, and the funny story is I actually was Darren's high school hockey coach his last 2 seasons, which was something that some people don't know. I don't want to date myself here. There was talk. There was actually back a few years ago, we actually tried to bring in a Federal League exhibition game here at one point, but it was when Darren had first taken over the rink, and the city just wasn't prepared to really do anything with it. But it's always been on the radar. I know that. And then when Darren told me, when the NAPHL came, and I said, whatever you need, I'm in. And I continued right on forever for the battalion, and then I got hooked up with you fine folks.
Well, for good or ill, it's been a fun ride here, and I think the team itself has really undergone a maturation process, and I think at the end, when you take a look at the standings, it looked like 2.5 games is what it was, the difference. So what you have to do is you have to point to, I think, like 5 games throughout the season that really made the difference between them being in the playoffs and them not being in the playoffs. And I think all 5 of those games that you can think of really went through the same script. Although I'll tell one of those games has to be the loss in Steel City. How do you lose in Steel City? And then the other 4 have to be there's definitely a couple of games where they had a lead going into the third period and it evaporated late. Now Watertown late in the season, that was a killer. The one with the penalties. Mm-hmm. And then there was definitely the shootout in Danbury, and I think that the last home game against Danville, when we actually had the opportunity, if we had beaten that Danville team at home on Sunday to go into 4th place, Bill, you looked at me, you said this one's a must-win, and they did.
And that was another third period lead that evaporated,
and they didn't win it. And right there, it's like, well, listen, it's like these guys are still trying to get to the point where they have to win the big games. And down the stretch, when they really had a shot, I think they could have made it out if they had won out. But that Watertown team is really a very good team, seeded first in the playoffs, probably the favorite to go all the way against the competition, against first round against a Danbury team that has just been flailing for the best part of 2 months.
Yeah, and really to speak more on this battalion team, I mean the fact that it's pretty much was a team full of rookies that came in. And they were just able to really put something special together. And, I mean, they overachieved. I mean, like you said, this could have been another Steel City. This could have been another, disaster potentially with a team that just couldn't find its stride, couldn't get anything together, and just couldn't put any wins together. But, I mean, come the end of the season, there were a lot of teams in the league that really were fearing the Berkshire Battalion. I know in speaking to a couple of the Watertown players, they were almost relieved that Berkshire didn't make the playoffs because they were not looking forward to a series against the Berkshire Battalion. And, of course, now that they get to play the Danbury Whalers, who pretty much backed their way into the FHL playoffs, it's a little bit different there. So it's gonna be interesting to see. I'm very excited for the playoffs. But this team really just came together. It was a totally special moment. I mean, I was brought in originally by Dan Farrell, the original head coach. When I saw him, he posted something on Facebook about the job, and I messaged him right away, and I told him that, you need a play-by-play guy. I'm your guy. I'm your broadcaster. And, well, as some of the fans probably know already, it worked out pretty well for me this season.
Yeah, Jared did. Congratulations, Broadcaster of the Year, FHL Broadcaster of the Year, Al Kessler.
Thank you. I just got the award in the mail. It's pretty big.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah, it's very nice. I hope.
I had a little bit of a similar story, though, Al, because I had just come off the ice playing a game where Darren was reffing the Lady Black Bears, and I was just coming off, and he had said that it was now going to happen that the FHL was going to put a team there, and I just said sort of offhand, "Hey, listen, if you need a PA announcer, let me know." And he texted me a few days later saying, were you serious? And I was like, yeah, I am. And I think I was one of a few people who actually attended this year every single battalion home game. I did not miss a single one. And every last one was a blast, a true blast.
Yeah, absolutely. What a special team, too. And I think the fans really recognize that. And I am very upset that I had to miss the going away party at Freight Yard. But, I mean, I really wish I could have been there. But unfortunately, school and work and real life gets in the way of hockey sometimes.
It was a great time. It was a great time.
I ended up getting there late, but one of the things I took out, I took around the room. It's like you look around and, it was probably the last time that this group of guys was going to be together as a team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
I know after the. Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, I do know that. I'm pretty sure that at least a couple of the guys are intending to retire. They don't have any interest in playing anymore. Now, I'm pretty sure Brad Ritter. I actually think I heard that, and I'm not sure. I can't confirm this yet. I haven't heard back from Brad, but I think he actually may take up coaching and work with Brandon Contrado.
Yes. I spoke to Brad at the party. He is going to go actually coach the Parry Sound Islanders in the Ontario Junior League, the OHL, I believe, is that what it is? And
the Ontario Provincial League.
Yeah.
And Brandon is going to go off, I believe, and do some other coaching. I would probably want to confirm that with Brandon.
We got him as a coach. He came to us. The reason he was only available really late in the season was because he was coaching that Parry Sound team. And he's very involved with the management and running of a couple of teams in that league, actually.
Yeah, I think he has got a good career ahead of him in running hockey teams.
Yeah, for sure.
Smart guy, good hockey player, too. So, little guy, so he probably can't. He's probably not going to go that much further in the pros, but he's got a great hockey mind on his shoulders, and I can see him coaching for a good long time to come.
Mm-hmm. So let's go over the final weekend of battalion hockey. The Saturday, March 7th was the final home game of the season, a 5-1 Berkshire win over the Watertown Wolves. Berkshire getting goals from Morton, Unak, Gavrik, Dolman, and two for Dolman. Chad Bennett, the only one for Watertown. Another sensational game for Louis George. He faced 31 shots and stopped 30 of them.
Yep, they were never behind at home when they played that game, and then they went to Watertown the next day, and they never had a lead. And so I think a little bit, if you take a look at the final standings on their home and away, this is a team that had a winning record at home. They were above 500 at the foot. And I think, again, that big, long road trip in December where they lost was like 7 out of 9 games or something like that.
Yeah.
You take that away, you take that road trip and make them go at least 500 on it, it becomes a different season.
Absolutely does. And, of course, losing Louis George for a stretch of time. Having Steve Messina as a backup was excellent, but I think it was a little tough having him fill in for that long. Obviously, the way Louis played was just phenomenal. But it was great to see Berkshire getting back to the Saturday game. Great to see Berkshire finish off with an exciting game for their home fans. 3 fights in the game as well. Henning and Judd Warren, Tracy and Alonzo, and then Morton and O'Neill as well very early on in that contest. But just an exciting game all around.
That one was kind of funny. It was when the first fight was well, I don't know, in the third period when Judd Warren went against Chris McCarthy.
Dustin Henning.
No, the first fight it was against Chris McCarthy, and because we got a 2-minute. Actually, what happened was he got a 2-minute roughing call against McCarthy. So Judd and McCarthy are in the box, and now you got to remember. And I know you guys do, but just for the benefit of those people listening, that Judd came from the Watertown Wolves. He spent a dozen or so games with those guys,
along with Mike McCurtain. Yep,
exactly. So he knows these guys, and the chirping in the box was really very funny. And one of the things that Judd leans over and to Chris McCarthy says, "You punched like a girl." So and it went on from there, and then they went back out, and then I guess I don't know what happened on the ice. Bill, you were probably closer to this one. And then Judd and Dustin Henning went at it, and then they got both 5 for fighting.
Yeah.
And then they get back to the box. Henning turns over, looks at Judd, and says, "Do I punch like a girl?" That's a great. Some of this stuff, it's hard to hear when you're in the stands. But
that's one thing I know. If you ever want to have get a hockey education, come sit behind the penalty box. The stuff that goes on in the box is absolutely priceless sometimes.
Yeah. It really is.
I just get a kick out of it. I forget who it was, but it was one of the many trips to the box for Tristan Lisco, and he's chirping across. I think it was Matt Ray from Watertown, and they're just chirping back and forth. And Matt Ray chirps to Lisco. He says, "Why don't you play in a real league?" I turned around and looked at Matt Ray and said, "You're in the same damn league. What are you talking about?" It's like, it was just hilarious, some of the stuff that goes on. But
I know
that want to get a hockey education, a real hockey education on what goes on. Come sit behind the box.
Exactly. Most people don't realize the way it goes on back there, but it really is funny. And Lisco, speaking of Lisco, unfortunately for him, he was waived by the Knoxville Ice Bears, and he actually made it back to the freight yard. It was a surprise to see him there, but he was with his battalion mates at the farewell party. I think everyone was really glad to see him.
That's good, and good for him. I understand he got waived, but from what I had heard from people around the business and people in the SP, they were bringing him up for an extended tryout. They were giving him a look for next year, so it wasn't like he was going to be a permanent replacement this season. But good job for Lisco getting called up, earning second-team All-Star nomination. We'll get to those awards in just a little bit. But how about Robert Morton, though, in that Saturday game, getting the Gordie Howe hat trick? He's got a goal a minute in.
And what a beautiful goal that was. Yeah. That was amazing.
And then 20 seconds later, he's fighting. And then in the second period, he assisted on the Gavrik goal, which put the battalion up by 3.
Morton, unsung, one of the very pleasant surprises this season. I was saying it to anyone who will listen. Morton Tracy came over from Steel City and saved this team.
I was about to say that, Ross, that really one of my under-the-radar players from this season has been Robert Morton. He's a fantastic guy on the face-off dot. He's got an excellent vision for the puck. And by the way, I mean, I've said this before, he's got the longest arms in the league. It's ridiculous. If you noticed, his fight in the first period against Dylan O'Neill, the two are pretty much the same size, the same height, same weight. But when they finally got disentangled and they lined up, Morton had O'Neill at a full arm's reach, and O'Neill couldn't get close. And that's just Morton's just got those long arms. There was a bit of a letdown though. The last game of the season, Sunday the 8th of March, a 6-3 Watertown win, as you said. Ross, the battalion never led in the game. A couple of goals though in the third period for Robert Morton. One of them shorthanded. 42 seconds into that third period. He would bookend that with a goal with just 40 seconds left to play in the season. But what a season and what a game!
Yeah, there were certainly some teams out there that they could have made a little bit more hay against. But Watertown, getting the way the schedule worked out with all those games against Watertown at the very end of the season, kind of like running into a buzzsaw. Even though they lost to JMac. For the very last few of those games, they still, I think they must have split them, or Watertown might have had a slight advantage in the last 7 against Watertown. It was close, but they weren't going to win out against that team, and it's just the way it goes, I suppose, in the Fed.
Yeah, so the playoffs are going to be interesting. It's they start on Friday. The Danbury Whalers hosting the Watertown Wolves. They'll play one game in Danbury, then 2 games in Watertown that weekend. and I believe the same will be true Dayton and Danville. Kind of nice how that worked out. You got the East and the West finals practically. My money is certainly on Watertown. Out of the East, I think Danbury just really struggled their way into the playoffs. I don't think they have the muscle to contend with Watertown. I don't think they have the discipline, the players. I don't think they have anything.
Their goaltending took a nosedive. I think Brownie is not the same guy.
Mm-hmm. They've had some real off-ice issues as well.
Yeah, exactly.
If rumors are to be believed, that is.
Yeah, but they just got Caranci back, but they've had some injuries over there in Danville and some call-ups, and it's just not exactly the same team at all on any level. And Watertown is kind of firing on all cylinders at this point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that Dayton Danville series is going to be a lot of fun. I think that's really a toss-up. You could see that go to anybody. Could be a really good series.
That's going to go to 3.
Yeah, it's probably, but I like Dayton at home.
Yeah, certainly. They're a very scary team offensively, but the way Danville has been playing lately, that's going to be a really exciting series. And hopefully we could see a really good final. And my money really is on, I actually think Danville takes that series against Dayton and finally gets to the promised land. They've only, Danville in their 4-year history now has only been to the playoffs once, and they were eliminated. They were swept in the first round by these Dayton Demons, so maybe a little time for some revenge. But of course the Demons, they're coming in trying to defend their cup. And try and repeat for the first time in the Federal Hockey League.
I think they'll certainly have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go. The Federal Hockey League announcing its awards. No surprise, Justin McDonald, MVP of the regular season. He had 44 goals in 46 games with 58 assists. That's
buckets and buckets full of points for that guy. Just really a phenomenal talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's not for him, it's very tough for the Watertown Wolves to be in that first place position, to be perfectly honest. I mean, they have a very good team, but just having J-Mac there was huge for them, and he's back now, so he's going to be a big part of their cup run.
He is back.
He is.
Oh my.
Yeah, he had specifically told the East Coast team that he would be coming back to the FHL for the playoffs.
Well, that's dedication.
Yeah. Yeah, he wants it. He also earned top forwards honors along with Ahmed Mahfouz of Dayton, Andrew Harrison of Danville, and of course our very own Tommy, Mr. Danger Tracy.
Tommy Danger.
The former Steel City Warrior averaged 2 goals a game there, averaged a goal a game in Berkshire. Just an excellent hockey player. And chances are we'll see him back next year.
Yep, fast, a lot of touch. I was talking to him at the party. I think he's gotten some feedback from scouts that his size might be an issue for him moving up. But I think if he takes the off season, gets a little workout, they have him listed at 6 feet, and he's no 6 feet. But once he gets his size a little going on, he's got a boatload of raw talent, and I see really good things in that boy's future for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The top defenseman in the league, Brian Marks of Dayton, certainly deserved the captain of that Dayton team, an excellent hockey player. But our very own Jeff Sanders, a forward-turned-defenseman, the California native, and he's looking to continue. I know for a fact that he's got a tryout option in Macon next year. So we may not see him back the way he's been playing. Just an excellent defensive player as well, but his offense was also really good. I think that the last 3 times, off the top of my head, I'm thinking that the last 3 times the Berkshire Battalion had a 5-on-3, Jeff Sanders scored a goal from the top of the circle, just a quick one-timer, and that just shows his offensive prowess.
Yeah, lots of assists coming late in the season for him, too, so he was really starting to get much more involved in a lot, especially on the power play.
Yeah, you see, once his health started to come back, that the last part of the season, that Jeff was a real different player. He's a real difference maker out on the ice.
Yeah, exactly. Took a couple of pucks in the face around the middle of the season.
And sticks.
Slowed him down a bit.
Seemed to all be against Danbury, too.
Yep.
The top goaltender in the Feds, Joe St. Pierre, 35 games with Watertown. He had 21 wins with a 3.06 goals against average. And another big reason, I think, if it's he and Justin McDonald really earning those awards, if it's not for the two of them, Watertown's in a very different situation right now. But congratulations to him. The Rookie of the Year is a co-award shared Mike Dolman and Garrett Sargis. Mike Dolman setting a record for the most points scored by a rookie in FHL history. And
Yep, he carried this team on his shoulders at the very beginning, and then really came on towards the end again. There's no part of this of the hockey on this team that doesn't have a Mike Dolman storyline to it.
Yeah.
The rookie of the month was November.
Mm-hmm.
He just absolutely came out of the gate strong, finished real strong. He's got size. He's got he's got talent. He can finish. He's been playing at a very high level all year.
Yeah, and he put up those numbers even with a brief stint in the Southern Professional Hockey League.
Yep. He got the call up for Huntsville and was there for a few games. And I hate to say it, but he's one of these guys who I think is going to be doing bigger and better things next year. So Battalion fans, you got to see him win. As a rookie.
Absolutely. And, of course, the Head Coach of the Year award, an award shared by Brent Clark of the Wolves, a deserved award, but also definitely deserved Darren Lane of the Berkshire Battalion, doing a phenomenal job, not just as head coach, but pretty much general manager, director of hockey operations, and just everything. Darren Lane, and sometimes Zamboni operator.
There's nothing Darren didn't do. I mean, from the music playing between periods to the people taking tickets to the shows, the intermission entertainment. Darren was there for every phase of that. This might as well be called the Berkshire Darren Lanes, the team. So it's great to see that he will be continuing his association with the team going into next year. And if anyone deserves that award, it is Darren. And for me personally, he's a good friend, a good guy to know. And I've appreciated the opportunity that he's been giving me to be associated with this team.
Yeah, same here. Absolutely, an excellent job done by Darren. Of course, let's get Bill's insight on it. I mean, obviously he's an excellent hockey coach. What was he like as a player when you coached him?
Darren, when I coached Darren, I would say he was probably the best player in Western Mass. He always had a lot of raw talent. He's one of the best skaters I've ever seen. He just has that low center of gravity. He's so strong on his skates, and you shoot the puck like you wouldn't believe. I mean, being a coach and then being a teammate with him for quite some time, I've been on the other end of some of the shots he's taken, and he can bring it with anybody.
Oh yeah. I've taken a couple of shots from him and left a mark through the pads for sure.
You can almost.
He was up at Northwood, and then he played over in Europe a bit, and he had in the old. Tryouts when he got back in the old Central League with some teams down south, as well as anybody. It comes to be a numbers game in situations like that. Who's got contracts and affiliations and things like that. But I always thought Darren could play at the next level.
Yeah.
His brief little stint at the beginning of the year proved that he could still play with pretty much anybody.
Yeah. And the way you're describing him, you almost want to draw parallels to Mike Keselowskis, who's another one of those players who I really appreciated the effort he put in this season. Just a phenomenal player despite his size. Just a really tough hockey player, really fast, and he's got an excellent shot as well. Certainly doesn't have the size that Darren does, but still doing an excellent job. Let's keep moving on these awards though. Man of the Year, the first time that this award has been given out by the Federal Hockey League, going to Vadim Guskov, and that is so deserved for Goose. Just a phenomenal guy off the ice, a phenomenal player on the ice, and I understand that he's on his way, if he's not already, back in Moscow, and so he's going to be missed.
He is, and he is just one of these guys. There are a few guys on the team that my daughter really bonded with, Sanders being one of them, when he was especially doing his thing in the schools. And Goose, she just absolutely adores Goose. I am posting a YouTube video now of my daughter Piper playing air hockey against Goose at one of the battalions.
It's funny you say that. I've got one on my phone too from
because Abby was playing right before then. Yeah, and he is just great with the kids. He's great with the fans. I mean, he's what can you say about the guy? I think you'll see him next year, Al, down in Macon. I hope he gets his good shot because really, again, like Dolman, just there from the beginning with the team, a steady presence who did a really very solid job. Was there with the team putting goals in, and being remarkably tough for a European at least.
A guy who really likes to fight.
Yeah, he would take on any and all customers, including his last bout against Justin Alonso of the Watertown Wolves.
Yeah, which knocked him out for the rest of the season, but he did a good job on the bench too, along with Mike McCurtain coaching that.
Yep. He's been an all-around great presence, and hopefully he will find his way back to North Adams as a spectator or in some other capacity at some point. I wish him absolutely nothing but the best. Yeah, absolutely. And then the second team All-Star Awards, two of the Berkshire players, Louis George getting goaltender honors and Tristan Lisko honors as a defenseman. A great season by both of them, both part of that original core of players. And yeah, with the exception of Tom Tracy, all of the awards given out to Berkshire players were given to those part of that original core of players who did so well in the early part of the season, really kept the team together and got them to where they were, which was knocking on the door of the playoffs. Yep, exactly. And it was at the party that I wanted to make sure that we also recognized a couple of the guys who started off with the team and aren't with the team anymore, and their contributions made. We lost Matt Hamilton halfway through, about two-thirds of the way through the season, and he was, I think, a big loss. Rio and Kuda got traded. Those were great guys. Kuda was really just, so much of a locker room guy, and I hope he is doing well with whatever he's going on. And there were, Andrew Morrison, whose injuries kind of derailed him for the year, and Matt Rosebrook. Kevin Morrison. Oh, Kevin Morrison, I'm sorry. Kevin Morrison, Mo and Rosie. Yeah, and Mo was one of the veterans on the team early on. Yeah, I think so. He was I think, the first few games, I think, slated to become a real presence here, but he got hurt, and I guess he never really just got off of that. Yeah. And that was too bad. And then we saw some guys along the way for brief stints. The couple of games we saw Alex Molnar. He was always a good one. And then towards the end, the main event, Tyler Howe. I hope we see him next year after he recovers. Yeah. Well, and another player I want to give some love to, though, is the defenseman Russian-born Kirill Frolov, who stayed through training camp despite not making the team. Paid his own way, stayed at the house, worked his way, and finally got himself a spot on the team. He played for about 5 games before breaking his leg quite badly in Danbury, forcing him to go home, which is just such a shame. My heart goes out to the kid. He was absolutely just beside himself, just so upset in Danbury when he realized that this injury was going to take him out for the rest of the season and force him to go back home to Russia. But hopefully we see him again next year, and hopefully he's doing well and he's recovering well. But definitely, that was for me one of the worst moments of the season was seeing Frolov's reaction to his injury.
Yeah,
that was rough.
I'm glad you mentioned Frolov, because I think he would have been one of the true defensemen that we would have had on this club. Had he been healthy. And the first part of the year they were having issues with his visa issue where he couldn't play, and like you said, he paid his own way to stay here and just worked, and it was just it was a tough story to see a kid like that. One snap of the finger and his season was done. Yeah, he's still young though, can recover, and I hope we'll see him again next year. Yeah, absolutely. But there were still a couple other guys too. I don't think we've mentioned anywhere near as much as we should have. Tyler Prendergast during these podcasts. I think he's just a phenomenal hockey player and an all-around great guy. And I guess the last one I wanted to mention was Dan Palmquist, who I think started off this season and kept his team in a lot of games going on until Louis took over for him. Yeah, he was a good guy to have around. Definitely, he and the team parting ways earlier on in the season, though. But definitely, I mean, it's been a wild season and a very fun season. And really, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Let's go around now. Bill, I want to get your take. What's your single most favorite moment from this season? Oh, if you had to pick one. It's so hard to pick one. There was a lot of fun stuff. I mean, interesting stuff. I guess for me, just being in the box the night of the Watertown game and getting doused with a hot chocolate. But then, it was funny being on the ice. this is one moment I don't think I've told anybody. I dropped the puck for a face-off, and I totally flubbed the freaking drop. The puck just fluttered up, just fell out of my hand. And I looked at Prendergast, who had taken the draw. I said, "Sorry about that, man." He goes, "What, you want to fight?" I just started laughing. I was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." But there's just a lot of stuff, and it was these guys to be around. It was, like I said, it was the most fun I've had in hockey in a long time.
Yeah, I got to say, the Armory at the home games, going on against the goalies. Bringing that picture of Justin Levac, and Julian Fraser,
and early on in the season, having the rosters taped up on the walls so they knew who to yell at. Love that dedication from the Armory.
Yeah, they did a great job, and Mitch and Peter were at the party, and those guys are, hopefully they will continue to bring those guys in at the. But I'll tell you something. The one time that I saw that arena go absolutely nuts was the fight with Steve Messina and Kevin Hoy of the Danbury Whalers.
Which I missed, and I still kick myself for missing.
I'll tell you something. You don't see the goalie fights that often, but Kevin Hoy
You don't ever see a good goalie fight that often.
Well,
usually they're ugly. They're just spinning each other around because they can't do anything.
But this one was just absolutely exceptional. Hoy comes barreling over the red line, which got him a suspension. Is charging towards Steve Messina, and Steve just drops him.
Yeah,
Bam.
Of course, the world champion, gold medalist, karate practitioner is Steve Messina. And I'm sure Hoy learned that pretty quickly. I actually saw Hoy just the other day out and about in Danbury. He still got that scar. He said that scar might stick around for the rest of his life, and that'll remind him the last time he crossed the red line. But my favorite moment, and I think this will be a good way to wrap up this podcast before I start crying all over the studio equipment. Hey, I'm an emotional guy. Deal with it. My favorite moment came after I want to say the second home game of the season in North Adams. Dan was head coach, and this came from one of my favorite players. No offense to any of the other guys listening, but Martin Unak, who's just a heck of a guy. He came up to Dan, and he said to him, in his funny accent, the way he talks, he said to him, in Slovakia, whenever we play hockey, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he says in Slovakia, when we play hockey, it's all about systems. It's all about X's and O's. It's all about, doing the right thing, and it's very serious. And he says, but coming here and playing here, the hockey is just fun. Everything about it is fun. And that to me sums up this battalion season. It's we could talk for hours and hours on end dissecting wins and losses and what would have happened if they won here or another team lost there. We can talk about that till the cows come home. But at the end of the day, what this team did this season and what this team meant to North Adams and to the Berkshire community is it was a fun team. It was a fun group of guys, and they played the game because they love playing hockey. Through the good times and driving 65 million hours on a bus with no heat, the good and the bad, and they did it for the fans. They did it for the guys out on the ice with them, and you really got to respect that. Yeah. And absolutely, I will never forget this season for the rest of my life.
And one last call out, if I could, I really want to hand it to Bill Dadds, who has gone and brought all this onto himself to keep this team in North Adams, to build it into its second year, and to pull it out of the league ownership sort of controversies and limbos that resulted from having to be run from afar by people whose primary interest was in the battalion. Bill Dadds and of course Andrew on the team, a great job all year, except for that several weeks where the poor guy was injured. But, thanks, Mr. Dadds, for keeping the team in town, and I look forward to seeing great things from you and your new Berkshire Battalion.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely going to keep in my travels around the country and throughout professional hockey. I will always keep an eye on how the Berkshire Battalion are doing. I'm certainly going to miss it. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. working this season with you guys. I think the trifecta of the three of us, we make a pretty good team. And
I agree.
I think
I can't continue.
yeah, it really is. But my one regret is not having brought Bill on earlier. I mean, that's Ross. It's just such a no-brainer for us.
I don't know why we didn't think of it.
Yeah, I think you and I. Well, I mean, I can speak for myself. I think I like the sound of my own voice too much. I think that's the problem. But
well, I think the other big regret is that we should have gotten a sponsor. Someone should have been paying us to do this.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for free all year.
But of course, I do hope you guys next year will continue the podcast tradition, because I've loved doing this, and I'm certainly going to miss it. Maybe I'll even call in, be a special guest on one of them. But
the SP report with Al Kessler.
What a season, guys! Thank you so much. This is the final edition of the Berkshire Battalion Signal Corps podcast, covering the season that was in the Federal Hockey League for the Berkshire Battalion. What a season, Ross, Bill! Thank you guys so much. Best of luck in all your future endeavors, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
And enjoy Macon.
I
It's
will.
my pleasure, and I wish great things for you too, Al. You deserve it.
All right, thank you. And thank you to all the fans for listening and commenting and supporting the podcast. We love you guys. Wouldn't have done it without you. But thank you so much for a great season, and have a great off season, everybody.
So long. Come on. Come on.